Hola, everybody from out there in the internet world. Bub here and Carl here, and we're going to jump right into this. We are answering Skeptics Part 5 of 10. I think we're going to do what I call responding to Forrest. Before we get into this, I appreciate it if you went to r4h.com or debunked.org. Get our app. It's full of all kinds of things that present a biblical worldview and tries to inform you guys that the Bible is true and right from word one, and that's what we're all about. So, and this is what stirred up this whole thing, because we released some time ago a video called "The Fossil Record Proves Evolution Debunked," and please read that title. The fossil record proves evolution. Why do you keep saying that, Bub? Because that's all we're trying to say, and it went all over the place.
Yep.
And our point is that hey, the fossil record does not show gradualism or the transitional forms like Darwin's prediction should have shown.
Should have bore it out. Yeah, the evidence should have been there.
Yeah, it didn't then, and it doesn't now, and that's our point. And the second point we try to make is be careful. There's all kinds of deception on purpose, and there's all kinds of mistakes that are made when people draw and imagine things, or find a bone and then could reconstruct the whole animal and say that it had eyes and that looked like this. It's like, hey, just be careful. That's all we're saying. So use critical thinking and look at the fossil record. But it turns out this goes everywhere. This Forrest took it all everywhere.
Place, and it was a lot of attacks on the fact that these guys believed in evolution, so you can't use their quotes. And it's like, well, we admit that they believe evolution, but that's not what we were talking about. We're talking about the actual fossil evidence. So we've talked about mutation, we've talked about this, but this week he brings something new. So let's take a look at it.
Yep.
A theory is not a guess. It is a functional explanation of observed natural phenomena that's backed by all the best evidence that we have.
All right, Bub, I have seen this thing a bunch of times, and I got to tell you, I do not see anywhere in there that you said that a theory was a guess. Did I miss something?
I don't remember it. Maybe there's a subliminal thing that he saw that we didn't see, but I don't think that. So no. I don't know why I would put in there. I don't think a theory is a guess.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I don't know. Maybe we should see what it is.
Well, to me, it does give us an opportunity here. This is the way that I would approach something like this. You're using the word theory, and it's not a guess. We never said that it was a guess, but what is it? I'm a big one on knowing the meaning of words. I tell people all the time, you can use the same words and have totally different meanings on it. So let's go to a dictionary. We'll go to Britannica here. And what is a theory? And a theory is an idea or set of ideas that is intended to explain facts or events. So that's a theory. But you know what kind of struck me, Bub? And again, I'm not going to argue about, this or that. Here's what struck me about that definition for theory. It's an idea. Well, I went and I looked up the dictionary definition for an idea, and this is what Britannica says about an idea: a thought, plan, or suggestion about what to do, or an opinion or belief. And I put it like this: you're absolutely right. You are welcome to your opinion, and you are welcome to your belief. We're talking about the facts. What does the evidence actually support? And we're saying that the fossils that have been found do not support slow, gradual transitions from a worm to grow legs, to crawl out into land, to become an amphibian, to turn into a rat, to turn into a wolf-like animal, to go back into the ocean, to become a blue whale. The evidence doesn't support that. That's the whole purpose of the video. You can have your theory, and that's great. That's your great idea, and that's your opinion, and we're looking at evidence, quite frankly.
Yeah, and we're not suggesting that there's like Einstein's theory of relativity isn't true. It's just an idea.
No,
it's like it's true. But I think when he says the theory of evolution, like a lot of people, again, they're that word evolution. We got to get back to it, because there's equivocation going on all the time here. And I think what he's saying is, look, the theory that things change.
Yeah.
Within species is known. It's a fact. We observe that.
Absolutely.
Right? And this is going to be important. We can observe that going on right now.
And that's going to come up. Yep. That's going to come up big time, Bub, when we actually get to the charts. That's exactly what he's saying, and we agree with that.
Yeah. So it's like maybe that's what he's saying. So benefit of the doubt. But hey, so you have an idea about a fact. It's not a fact. We agree that a theory is not a guess. There, you look at some evidence, you interpret it, and you start to build an idea around the model. So we get that. So but there's more to this thing.
Yeah, let's take another clip here and see if we can glean something else.
Yep.
But evolution itself is a fact, just like gravity and the shape of the earth.
Okay, so evolution is a fact. I hear this one all the time. Evolution is a fact, just like gravity and just like the shape of the earth. Well, to me, there's one big difference. And maybe in the future episode of Reacteria, he can correct me on this one, and I'm fine with that. Can I test gravity? Well, I went to a big dog again, and let's get one of the guys, Bill Nye the Science Guy, to tell us if we can test or how we can test gravity.
The pull of gravity isn't so strong that we can't raise our arms or anything, but it does pull on everything all the time. So if we're standing on the Earth's surface, it pulls us down toward the center of the Earth. Now we can test this. This is an old idea, but a good one. Watermelon.
Don't do it, Bill.
Now, other than the fact that we just wasted a good watermelon, what did we learn?
I'm so hungry. Yeah.
Gravity works. It pulls things down.
Gravity works. I bet it works over and over and over again because you can test and repeat that.
Oh, we can test it again.
Going.
Watch, Bub.
Okay.
Watch. We can test it again. Here we go.
All right.
And guess what, Bub? We can test it a different way. Watch.
Oh, other objects? Wow. Look at that.
So evolution is a fact like gravity.
Come on.
Please, in the future Reacteria, where you want to correct me, I know there'll be some mocking and that sort of a thing. What tests can we do to show that a living thing came from a dead thing to turn into a worm, to turn into a fish, to grow legs as it crawls out on the land, to turn into an amphibian, to turn into the rat-like animal, to turn into the wolf-like animal, to go back into the ocean to become a whale? What test is there for that? Because everything that we brought up, the point mutations do not add genetic information, which you need in order to take a worm to grow legs. That doesn't support it. Observational evidence doesn't support that. The fossil record, observational evidence doesn't support one thing turned into another. So what test can you do, like we can do with gravity, to show that one thing turned into another thing? I'm interested in that, quite frankly.
Well, I think that's what they've been trying to find forever and ever, but and will continue to look for. But there's some things science cannot explain and will not ever be able to explain. And one is certain things like origins, because they can't test and repeat that. It's outside of nature, right? It had to be supernatural to come from nothing. If there was, nature can't create itself. So there's things that it can't explain, and they're never going to get to the origin issue. That's why Darwin kind of skipped over that and said, I'm not about origins. I'm about once things are living, how do they get to be the next thing? Because, well, that's a big gap. First of all, your theory, your position and worldview still has to explain how it got here, and then how life came from non-life. Two giant things. But again, don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
what Forrest says here is like, that's fine, but it's not in the fossil record.
Right. And the other thing, and I'm not saying that he's doing this, so I'm not trying to put words or thoughts into anybody's, but the shape of the earth. And the only reason I bring this up, Bub, is because so many people try to equate Christianity with a belief in a flat earth. I don't believe the earth is flat. So that's not who we are. And I would say it like this. One of the reasons that I'm very sure about it is I got a real good buddy. He was a drummer for a long time in a band, and he's got a good buddy. His name is Shane, and Shane's an astronaut. And Shane took my buddy Brian's drumsticks into space. This is the picture from space. This guy orbited the Earth, all right? He's going around and around. He spent more days in space in 2021 than any other astronaut, from what I understand, right? And he took a picture of those drumsticks with the window in the background showing the Earth. And he went around the Earth, okay? He saw that it was round. He's seen it firsthand, and that's the sticks floating in space. I thought that was kind of a cool picture my buddy sent to me. So we don't think the Earth is flat. I think that there's observational evidence. That's how you can test that. You can go out into space, you can look at it, but you can't do that by going back in history and telling me that you can prove that a worm grew legs. That is historical science. That's outside of the realm of observational empirical science. It's a different thing.
That's a really good thing to know the difference between the historical and observational science, because they're both approaching things differently. And objective science cannot prove the 100% that historical thing. We rely on, like your buddy here, who went out to space, and I trust that that's him, and I trust he took that picture, and I trust he's a trustworthy person, all which are philosophical things that have to be true for us to trust that. Same thing we got to apply to this. I think, again, though, I'll say it again and again, Forrest here is saying that there's changes within species and evolution itself is a fact. That's what he's saying. I think that's what he's saying.
We agree with that.
But then the equivocation happens. And okay, but again, if it's a fact, we should see if molecules to man and gradualism in transitional forms, if Darwinian evolution is a fact, all I'm saying is we should see it in the fossil record, and we don't. Again, another tangent, but we can keep going. We got to keep going. I'm going to harp on these things all the time because it's I tell you, man, you get in talks with people, and they have ways of going on tangents and all kinds of misdirection and red herrings. I just, please get back to the point. Hey, Forrest, if you got something out there, you got something in the fossil record that absolutely proves us wrong, show it to us.
We might see something here coming up. We might see something.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's the next clip.
Instead, hey, let's have a little fun and take a look at some popular secular articles and charts on the fossil record and see if we can learn to separate facts from interpretation of facts by asking a few simple questions. Question 1. Did the artiste take any artistic license with what I'm looking at here? Check this out because this happens all the time. Look, isn't that sweet? So cute and fluffy. Okay, why do you think the artist made these creatures appear more human-like by throwing in an affectionate smile and depicting them hanging out like a human family going to a picnic or something? Why did he draw them walking upright? Why make the shapes and colors of their eyes more human than ape? Is any of it based on actual fossil evidence?
A lot of stuff going on there. A lot of stuff. So let's take a couple. One, I kind of wish... I'll just say it. I wish we hadn't said the shape of their eyes, but the color of the eyes, absolutely dogmatic.
Well,
you don't know that thing had whites around their eyes. You look at an ape today, everything about the Australopithecine looks to be some type of ape. And if that's what the actual evidence supports, then the actual evidence for the eye, we could infer it would be the same as what we see in apes today, which is not the whites around the eyes. So, the walking upright, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
Well, it's interesting. So help me out with that. What's wrong with the shape of the eyes? We didn't say the outside of the eyes. We didn't say the bones of the eyes. The eyeball itself. How do they know the shape of the eye? I mean,
from the skull,
guess, I guess.
Yeah, we can guess because of the skull, the opening, the orbital socket, and that sort of thing. So, to me, that's
you would
nitpicky.
give that to somebody.
That's really nitpicky.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's nitpicky.
Okay.
But
the color and all the other stuff is
the walking upright, the waving. I mean, you got the lady
smiles.
waving to the guys up in the tree. Oh yeah, and I got to tell you right now, that lady that's smiling at her dude, she should be smiling at that dude, because if you look at the pecs that guy's got on there, I would demand my wife looked at me like that every day if I had pecs like that, brother. That's not in the fossil record. That is all speculation. That's all taking 7 pieces of the skull. That's it. 7 pieces of a skull from Lucy and turning it into the smiles and the look on the child's face, like, oh, what you got for, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And the future Fortune 500 CEO looking off into with a vision into the future. That is not science. That's science fiction. It's pretty cool, but it's not real.
Yeah.
So we got another clip here. Let's take a look at what he's got. What else he's got?
They're depicted as walking upright because they walked upright. And we know that for sure because of the fossil evidence. We see that the foramen magnum is positioned in the bottom of the skull, not in the back of the skull.
All right, Bob.
How do we know this is a fact?
For sure.
God,
for sure.
How do we know for sure? Because he was there and he took pictures.
No, because of the skull. Look at that skull, man. Yeah. There's a hole at the bottom of the skull, and that proves that it walked upright, right?
I don't think so, but I don't think so.
Let's go to some quotes here that I got. We'll go to National Geographic first. National Geographic wrote this about the foramen magnum. But other researchers have cast doubt on whether this curious skull opening really is a clear indicator of striding about on 2 legs. A connection between the foramen magnum and bipedalism seems right, but there's not much hard evidence to back up the link. So it seems to make sense that hole would indicate that they walked upright. But that's not proven. That's not science fact. That's a belief.
I always like that. One of my favorite words is but.
Yeah.
But. All this stuff up front and all these things, but yet, hold on a second. What doesn't? The hard evidence doesn't show. Okay.
We think
all we're
maybe,
looking for is
could
hard
be,
evidence.
might be. Hey, but there's another quote, because I don't want
Yeah,
pick.
keep going.
We're cherry picking. Well, let's go to another group here. Let's go to Inside Science, and the title of the article was, "Can the skull tell us if an ancient human walked upright?" And so the first line, as you get down into the article, starts off with, "How can you tell how a creature walked when all that you have is the head?" And that's a great question. For many years, scientists looked at the foramen magnum, the large hole at the base of the skull where the brain connects to the spine, to find out. They believed it showed if an early human was a biped that walked on 2 legs or a quadruped that walked on 4. But a recent study published in the Journal of Human Evolution calls this into question. The results were surprising. Once factors like skull shape were taken into account, Ruth found no correlation between foramen magnum angle and the way an animal moved. Paleoanthropologist, none. Paleoanthropologist John Hawks of the University of Wisconsin-Madison is excited to see how the debate unfolds. Ruth's paper and others have taken away the clear idea that we know what the position of these animals was like. The posture of these animals was like. Some people thought the foramen magnum was the feature that shows locomotion. Maybe it's not, he said. For now, maybe we shouldn't take the holes in our head at face value. So that leads me to believe that it's not a scientific fact. But wait,
not
there's
fact.
more.
Unclear. No, there is.
There's more.
There's always more with you.
quote.
One more
quote. Here we go. This one is Journal of Human Evolution, relationship between foramen magnum position and locomotion and extant, which is existing, and extinct hominids. And it says this: yet the functional relationship between the foramen magnum position and bipedal locomotion remains unclear. So I'm sorry,
We know for
Forrest.
sure.
I'm sorry,
We know
Forrest.
for sure.
That is not a
That's
true
what he said.
statement. That is not a true statement. But there's more.
Well,
Take a watch.
We can see the shape of their spine.
Now, something interesting here, Bub. When I saw this picture up there, he's talking about Australopithecine, and it walked upright, and the fossil evidence supported that. But you look at the 2 images that he's got up on the screen there.
yeah.
That's a human and a gorilla. That's a human and a gorilla. There's no Australopithecine in there. And I wouldn't argue with either one of those fossils that he's got in there. But what about the skeleton for Australopithecine? I went to a dear buddy of mine. His name is Dr. David DeWitt. And he's got his PhD in neuroscience, I believe it is. And he's done a lot of study on Lucy. I said, okay, David, Dr. David, did I miss something here about the spine? And this is what he wrote me. Here's the quote. Lucy's spine is a wreck. There are not enough vertebrae to determine the full curvature. You see, humans have 24 vertebrae and chimps have 22. And when you look at what they actually found for Lucy and you start counting the bones up there, you start the vertebra, they don't have enough to really make a decision. And it's pretty poor shape, quite frankly. And by the way, if you look at the very top of the spinal column, just below the jaw, you see this one vertebra there that's like an upside down V almost. Well, that one, they discovered after 40 years of research that one doesn't even belong to Lucy. That would belong to a baboon. So they have one less bone than you actually see in there. So,
again, things that we see, the big headline comes out, like we said in the video, and all the pictures come out of the fabrications, but then we go back to see the stuff and it's really all scattered apart. And even some of the bones don't belong there after years of study. But at the beginning, we see it and go, this is magical. This is it. This is the form. This is the one. And then it all seems to break down over and over and over again. Even with Lucy, the most, apparently the best discovery in forever, right?
Yeah. We're going to get to what Lucy actually shows. Here's what I tell folks to do. When you see a new headline come out about a new evolutionary ancestor, put a tickler, an electronic tickler in your calendar for a year from now to go do more research on it, because what you're going to find out is typically it's gone after a year. Now, just to drive home that point, let me show you some interesting things about Lucy here, all right? Just a couple of interesting points. Number one, Swiss scientists studied the bones and figured out that she's not a she, that she was probably a he. And the Swiss scientists suggested a new name since it's a he and not a she, and they suggested the name Lucifer. Now, I got to tell you,
I'm not going to say anything about that.
I
I'll
am.
leave that one alone.
I am. I said amen, brother, because this set of bones has been used more to lie to a generation than anything else. And point number
All right.
2, the reason Lucy is so big is because she's supposedly 40% complete. But the reality is that's not so. 206 bones in the adult human and ape body. If you start counting bones there, you're going to notice that they have 0 hand or foot bones for Lucy. And that's 27 in each hand, 26 in each foot. That's a lot of bones. They don't have any of those for Lucy. And we'll talk about what they did find later. But they don't have 40%. They have about 23 to maybe 28%. So that's even deceiving. And I'm like, look, when you just put the truth out there, you don't have to lie to people. We got 40%. No, you don't. You got 23 to 28%, which is great when compared to 3 pieces of a jaw and 17 bone fragments and some of the other things that we've got.
Yeah. So when Forrest put those 2 images up of the human and the gorilla, he didn't take this into consideration because was he talking about Lucy here specifically, or
yeah, he's
or
talking
we
about
just like-
Australopithecine because those are that's the one that we showed that was walking
Okay.
upright. Yep.
So and then your guy said it's a wreck. We don't have no idea if there's a curvature of the thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know why he put those images up there for.
Well,
Like, okay, there's a gorilla and there's a human, but what that's what we find in the fossil record, but not the other stuff. That's our point, I think.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Supported. It
Sometimes-
didn't take anything away from us. But hey, we got another quote here. Let's take a look.
The shape of their pelvis.
Short and sweet, bub. The shape of the pelvis is absolutely vital to knowing how something walked, if it was quadruped or biped. And we'll talk about it next time.
Next time it is. For now, go to r4h.com or debunked.org. Download our app, look at our resources. We hope that they help you think clearly and think critically, think biblically. Till next time, adios.
See ya.